We talked about my grandmother's house. My grandmother's house is where I spent a lot of time as a kid. My mom's side, I got a redneck side of my family, and then I've got a redneck side of my family. My mom's side was the redneck side of my family. My dad's side was just the regular run of the mill rednecks. You know, like they had real jobs. The family was very important to them. My mom's side was like the heathen side, but they were also the fun side. You know, if you don't know who I am or any of my backstory, I've led a kind of a crazy adult life. But August 31st of this year, I'll celebrate 10 years of sobriety. And thanks. As a kid, you don't realize that substance abuse is an hereditary thing. You don't even know what substance abuse is as a kid. You just know two things. You got cool uncles. You got lame uncles. My dad's side of the family, the regular old redneck side, we had Uncle Clarence. I'm going to give you one guess what side of the fun spectrum that man fell on. Uncle Clarence was a highway patrolman for the state of North Carolina for 40 years. The man didn't laugh. He didn't smile. He didn't tell jokes. He didn't season meat properly. He gave shitty Christmas gifts. I love him because I had to. He's a good guy, but he was just lame. He didn't inspire kids to have fun. He basically told us if he ever caught us speeding, he'd pull us over and write us a ticket without even thinking about it. But on my mom's side, we had Uncle Benny. Uncle Benny was cool as shit. He was everything an 8-year-old wanted me to be, you know. Uncle Benny loved the kids. Every time he'd come, he'd give us beer and cigarettes, which might have led to the substance abuse later in my 20s and 30s. Like a little redneck Easter bunny, just always giving shit out every time he showed up. He was awesome. But my mom and grandmother knew that he had a problem, knew he was a bad influence on the kids, so he stopped getting invited to stuff. Hell, I was in 4 of his weddings before I was 10 years old. I was the ring bearer in 4 of his weddings. 2 of them were so close together, I didn't have to get a new suit. And friends, I was a fast-growing boy. And around 6 or 7 years old, he stopped getting invited to stuff because he was a bad influence on us. Do you think that stopped Uncle Benny from coming? Absolutely not. He just showed up late and drunker than he would have been if he'd have just showed up on time. But it was always a magical moment because he never made just a calm entrance. He always made like a very, very big Hollywood entrance. And so my grandmother's house was about 1.5 miles down this dirt road. We lived off the state road. And so she was about 1.5 miles down, but standing in her front yard, if you looked, you could see the stop sign where it hit the main road. So anybody that turned onto that main road, you could see them 1.5 miles away. And if you were going fast enough, they would cause a dust cloud at the end of it. So you wouldn't be able to see them pull on. You would just see a dust cloud. And every Thanksgiving, Christmas, about an hour after we got done eating. So imagine this. All the adults are sitting at the table talking to each other. Kids are out front playing in the front yard. All of a sudden, there'd be one kid who saw it first. It was like, look. And we'd all look at the end of the dirt road. And at the end of the dirt road, there was this tiny little dust cloud. And if you were quiet, like a night like tonight, but without the cicadas, if it was really quiet and nobody was talking, you could hear before you could see him. And all you could hear was, taking care of business every day, taking care of business. And that dirt cloud would get bigger and bigger and bigger until finally Uncle Benny's Trans Am would shoot out of that dirt cloud. And of course he drove a Trans Am. T-tops out year round. The man probably lost him. He just didn't care. And as he got closer, that BTO would just get louder and louder and louder until finally he's about 1/2 mile away from you. And it was like you were at a concert. It was just taking care of business. And the kids in the front yard just cheering him on like it's a sporting event. And Uncle Benny would start fishtailing because he was hammered up and down that dirt road. And then he'd get to my grandma's driveway and he'd pull that e-brake and he'd get sideways and bring that thing up sideways. And then he'd pull the e-brake again and park it sideways. Not to be a badass, but just so nobody could leave. And then he'd get out of that car and he'd Bo Duke slide across the hood of it like a badass. And he'd open up the door for whatever Holiday Inn cocktail waitress he dated the night before because he was a gentleman. And he'd open up that door and let her out first. And he'd come up to us kids and ask us how we're doing, how's school going, how's sports. here's cigarettes, here's a Playboy, here's a cold beer. Uncle Benny loves you. And he'd go inside, and about 5 minutes later, you would hear something break. And Uncle Benny would slowly walk back out and say, well, it's time to go. It was good seeing you kids. And he'd get right back in and just ride off into the sunset. I wanted to be Uncle Benny so bad. He was such a cool guy. Uncle Benny died when he was 37 years old. He lived a little too hard. And fast forward to my 20s, I started a rock and roll band. I started touring, started drinking, started living a little bit like Uncle Benny. And in 2014, I showed up to a family function, uninvited, little fucked up. And my mom pulled me to the side and she said, BJ, it's so good to see you. I'm so happy you showed up. But you know who you remind me of right now? I said, who's that, Mama? She said, Uncle Benny. And that's when I had to take a very, very long, hard look at how I was living. And a couple weeks later, through my wife and through my mom, I got the help I needed. And God willing, come August 31st, I'll celebrate 10 years of recovery. And this is a song about that. Wide-eyed and 21, another shot of Jameson to calm my nerves before this nightly masquerade. What people saw was nonchalant, a complex condition response, a chemical reaction, brown liquor and self-doubt. So that I could stand up on this stage like a guilty child, avoiding blame, I'd kick, I'd scream, and curse the name of the girls that walked away. You see, the man left holding the pen controls how every story ends, and truth becomes a martyr for the sake of the song. But now I'm in a good place. I'm walking that straight line, just to getting along, righting these wrongs one day at a time. For years the drinks were just a crutch, till the drinks were just too much. I guess it comes with the job. Hail, hail, rock and roll. You see, songs fulfill a human need to sit back and watch another man bleed. So for a moment, we don't have to feel sorry for ourselves. This imaginary confidence became my first line of defense. If you don't let them in, boy, they'll never let you down. But she broke through and took control, my sweetheart of the rodeo. And for the first time, I found something I couldn't afford to lose. You see, I'm in a good place. I'm walking that straight line, just to get along, righting these wrongs one day at a time. And every now and then I miss the way that highball glass would kiss my lips like a long lost love welcoming me home. But I don't miss the highs and lows, the back and forth, the ebb and flow of letting down the people that are standing up for me. You see, I'm in a good place. I'm walking that straight line, just to get along, righting these wrongs one day at a time. Yes, I'm getting along, righting these wrongs one day at a time.